Talk to me about Jonny Fairplay. He makes the torch here, and there's a rumor that he signed a deal or is about to sign a long-term deal that it won't just be a handful of guest appearances. And people are suggesting that perhaps he'll join on commentary or he'll be a manager, but people are not happy with it. Even though he's worked as Roddy Piper's full-time assistant, even though he's worked indie shows and promoted his own indie shows in several states, the belief is that he quote unquote hasn't paid his dues. And allegedly, he had some rowdy conduct at some bars in the past that some of the guys thought was maybe a little too quote unquote fanboy. This, according to the torch. How does Jonny Fairplay come into your life? Do you remember people having some heartburn about working with Jonny? And what was the big time goal? I mean, obviously he's been on the hit show Survivor Series. Is this just he's a wrestling fan and if he can promote and get some eyeballs, let's do it? Or was there more to it than that?
So in your Google machine, I don't even know if we can come up with it. Survivor, though, in 2002, 3, 4, 5, the ratings
were unbelievable.
Okay, so I wasn't a Survivor watcher. Were you?
I was not, but I knew it was the highest rated show on television.
Like by far. They were crushing it. And one of those viewers who was a over-the-top Survivor watcher was Dixie.
Okay.
Just a huge Survivor fan. And during those times, those 12 to 10 to 8 or however many cast members they really were household names. They were on the cover of People magazine and doing the talk show rounds after they got eliminated. I mean, they were mainstream. Well, to say Jonny Fairplay was a heel on that show is an understatement. He was lied about his grandmother. I don't remember all the storylines that they had in it, but he was a big time charismatic heel, and Dixie was a huge fan of it. And it just so happened Jonny liked wrestling. He wanted in. And so it was that whole talk. And when I kind of read the research about Jonny having a full-time contract, I go back to, I don't think that was really, maybe it was discussed between Dixie and Jonny. I wasn't a part of those conversations, but we were still running 1 day a week. And so, even an AJ Styles, the exclusivity we had him is you just had to give us priority on Wednesday. So I think that's a lot of dirt sheet writing, journalist, newsletter writing, however you want to say it, that just kind of pumped it up. But there was an interest there from not just Dixie, from creative. Hey, if we can create kind of a publicity, and we're going to get into a couple on this episode, a Chicago Bear dude, player, there's a couple. And so obviously the original idea with Hogan was, talk about a publicity stunt, getting Hogan to be a part of it. And we went into those negotiations on the prior episode, but no, Jonny was going to be a publicity stunt. His promo skills and his bumping skills were adequate, but they were, I think he'd tell you this day, they weren't nothing over the moon, but he was willing to play ball. And if we could get press out of him, I think we were all willing to play ball.
You want to guess how many people watched? I know he was on Pearl Islands, so this isn't the same season, but do you want to guess how many people watched the season 1 finale of Survivor? Just guess, Jeff.
Okay. So
here in America, season 1.
So the football game the other day, which kind of blew my mind, was in the 20 million, 27, 28, the streaming one. But okay, this is broadcast television.
Broadcast television, August 2000.
Wow. So we're kind of in this golden era of cable television. 35 million?
51.69.
Think about that, Conrad.
The season that Jonny was on, Pearl Islands, the finale did 22.29, but throughout the season, 19.97 million people were watching the show. So I say all that to say, if anybody listening to this was in the TNA locker room and upset that Jeff Jarrett had the audacity to have Jonny Fairplay on the show, you don't get it, kind sir.
But I'm telling you, there was a lot of rumblings, but I did my best not to pay attention to that because I'm like, they're not supposed to get it. They're supposed to get in the ring and run the play. So you can't ask them to think too far out the box. You just can't.
Let's talk about Jonny Fairplay. His deal doesn't get finalized until 7:30 p.m. the night of the show. So a half hour before the show's supposed to start. That explains why he wasn't advertised. Bob Ryder was the point man on the deal, and he had to negotiate with Jonny Fairplay's agent. It's noted in the Observer here that Jonny Fairplay's agent is famous for being the agent for the adult film star Ron Jeremy.
Yep.
Yeah. Ron Jeremy's agent. Do you know what Ron Jeremy could do? It's a lot like what Lanny Poffo could do. Have you heard about this?
Connie, I have not heard of Ron's escapades.
I think that's how he got famous, maybe originally. He had a unique party trick.
Okay.
You're familiar with that?
Well,
you know what Poffo could do, right? You heard about that.
Oh yeah, Lanny.
Well, Ron Jeremy was doing that before Poffo made it mainstream.
Who stole whose gimmick? Like whose gimmick infringement? I'm gonna say Ron imposed on Lanny.
Lanny? Wow.
Lanny's the OG.
Have to have a frisbee fight and see who wins. So Fairplay keeps adding new points in, or his agent does, literally until the last minute. And I guess this is because the word had gotten out somehow through Fairplay's people. They had heard that Dixie said something like, give them what they want. Let's make this deal happen. Now, as the story goes, Fairplay had his side had pretty much said, I can get you discussed on Howard Stern. Howard Stern, and as a reminder, this is pre-Sirius XM. That's a couple years away at this point. Howard Stern has the biggest radio audience in America. It isn't close.
By far, yes.
And if you can have your program discussed there, because maybe he's going to be a guest there and he'll promote or he'll talk about it, that's the sort of coverage that TNA literally could just not buy. So Meltzer would say, if that's possible, then maybe that's worth it. But if it is a huge financial risk, maybe it's not. And he would say it's telling that WWE showed little or no interest in Fairplay, given that he was fresh off of this highly rated show. 22 million people were watching that program. He has indie experience managing wrestlers out in Oregon. And I guess his claim to fame at that point was Roddy Piper wrote in his book, without naming him by name, that he thought his driver was trying to kill him when they were in a wreck that hurt him badly. But this Fairplay stuff doesn't go away, because I guess, the more this festers in the locker room, the madder the talent start to get. The idea being they're hearing that Jonny Fairplay is getting a guaranteed deal, and they're talking to Hulk Hogan, and they're talking to Sting and Roddy Piper and Lex Luger, and it's in the Observer, they're talking to Kevin Nash. But when I ask for an extra $50 a week, I'm told we can't afford it. Buddy, I could see how you had some upset folks here. What do you remember about Fairplay's agent, him coming in, the lack of reaction from the live crowd on the debut, and the heartburn in the backstage area?
Heartburn in my gut. Conrad, think about the balls I'm trying to juggle, because first and foremost, and I said the pity party, but it's the reality, and I can certainly chuckle about it today. But the balls trying to juggle, first and foremost, the investor's daughter, Dixie, wanted Fairplay on board. Okay.
Yes.
Then by design, Bob Ryder at onewrestling.com, notes from Bob, is running point on, I guess you could say, negotiations, because he was doing most of the talent deals. So him and Dixie, because I wasn't a part of this negotiation, Dixie wanted a deal, and Dixie and Bob were getting it done. Well, having hindsight, now knowing after working with Bob all those years, God rest his soul, I'm sure that he had his pipeline to the newsletters and stirring things up. And then Johnny probably in the flames as much as he possibly could. Hey, get what I can get, or get the, he's going to blow up whatever his salary was or payoff was. And then you have the talent who probably were rightly so. Hey man, I'm just asking for 25 more a week or 50 more a week. Nope, can't pay you that. If we pay you, we're going to end up paying everybody. We don't have that in the budget. And then trying to write a show.
It's tough.
It was so much. We talk about a whole lot of chatter. There was so much nonsense chatter when I look back on off and on through the years. Oh my God. Nonsense chatter. Because I understood Johnny coming on board, but is he really going to move the needle? Probably not. Can he get us some exposure? Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Jonny Fairplay again. There's a report in the Observer, quote, backstage observers say Dixie Carter was either laying it on thick or she was totally marking out for Jonny Fairplay. The general feeling of most wrestlers was that it was a mistake to have Fairplay take a power bomb from AJ Styles on his first night in. These wrestlers feel it would have made more sense to build up to Fairplay's first bump so that it would have meant more. When asked about taking the bump, Fairplay told wrestlers that he and TNA officials felt it was important for the media to get photo opportunities of him taking the bump. I know that sounds a little silly, but if you're trying to use him for exposure, you probably do need a little physicality on that first visit. I understand why people wearing their wrestler hat would say, yeah, but you should build up to that. And I get that. But if you're looking for that sports center moment, that's not going to happen if he's just walking to the ring. You got to have him do something, right?
Bingo. And look, Fairplay wasn't going to get Sports Center. He was going to get National Enquirer or Stern.
Yeah.
I know you knew that, but any kind of clip, him doing offense is not what the Survivor fan base wanted to see. The Survivor fan base, because he had again really been a fantastic heel on the show. They wanted to see him get his ass kicked. And so how do we as a brand, TNA, show him getting his butt handed to him, have him take a big bump and make sure we capture it every way possible and then service the trades that way?